You can't deprogram the cuss words out of my mouth. You have been warned. Content is not suitable for all listeners.
Welcome! You're listening to Bewitched Banter.
I'm Krista, and I believe that people are inherently shitty.
And Team Skeptic Amy here, and I believe that people are naturally good.
But ironically, I'm a super believer in the supernatural and all things spiritual.
And I'm a total skeptic.
She sure is. We're best friends, and in this podcast, we're seeking to explore and understand each other's perspectives with deep dives into the spooky, spiritual, magical, and the mystical.
And some straight up weird stuff.
Today, we have a very special guest visiting us today, a good friend of mine from my PR organization, Terina Moldanado, who came out of the Mormon religion and church, left it years ago with her husband, and not only was that brave, but she now supports other survivors of cults or religion and abuse through her own organization, and you can find her at terinamoldonado.com. And let's dive right into our interview with her.
Yeah, enjoy. This is a true inspiration listening to her story, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we did.
Amy and I are joined today by a special guest and friend of mine, Terina Moldanado, that I met in Hawaii in April, right? When did we go? April, May?
I don't know, life's a blur.
Right? In the spring.
In the day.
We're all clueless.
Pre-COVID times. And the reason Amy and I are bringing Terina on, because she is an incredible human being and was so candid with me on our first night meeting about her story of leaving the Mormon Church. And that came up because I was talking about Bewitched Banter, and we had just covered Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was like, oh my God, we would love to have you and share your story. And we just want. So with that said, we also were kind of interested in deprogramming, kind of along the same lines. And when I reached back out, you're like, oh, it's absolutely associated.
It's essential when you leave any sort of high demand religion or organization, for sure.
Absolutely. So in your experience, I guess that led you to what you do now. So what I'm trying to lead to, sorry, brain fart, it's been a while since we recorded, is how did that lead you into your life coaching and how you now assist others?
Yes. So I am a survivor of child abuse and sexual assault. And so I've done a lot of work on trauma and healing. And that all happened prior to leaving the Mormon Church. And after we left, we joined some groups and some support groups.
When you say we, you're talking about your...
Oh, me and my husband.
Okay.
We left at the same time, which I'm really super, super thankful for, because not everybody is as lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And that really was really a valuable thing for us to have each other to walk through this with. So we joined some support groups, and I noticed, not only through my own experience, but like other people, that it was trauma healing that was happening as people had left. And as I was kind of looking into that more, I learned about what religious trauma syndrome is.
What is it, if you don't mind sharing?
Like, do you mind sharing?
So religious trauma syndrome can come from losing your belief system. It can come from being in a very high control, manipulative religious organization where your authority is taken away. You give all your authority to another person, where it's very us versus them. Kind of what we're talking about today within the whole high demand area. And so it can encompass a lot of things like the inability to trust yourself. It can encompass PTSD type things where you're having panic attacks because you don't know how you're going to move forward without this organization.
Sure. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. And depression, sleep disturbances, a bunch of different things. And definitely, like, I experienced a bit of that as we had lost our entire social circle, and the foundation of everything we built our lives upon just crumbled underneath of us, and all of a sudden you're just free falling, and it's a terrifying thing.
How old were you?
So I was 36. So not a spring chicken.
And how long were you in the church?
My husband and I are both born and raised. We both have like generations of family members back to the near foundations of Mormonism.
Oh, wow.
So
apparently, side note, my mom says we're distant relatives of Joseph Smith, who is the founder of the Mormon Church.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I do know that there is an aunt in the lineage that had a last name of Smith that I have actually seen her photo. And she happens to be a beautiful Sade looking, I think, half black, half white woman, actually. Which is maybe where I guess some of my sassiness from. I don't know. But so her name was Jemima Smith, and she, I think, if what my mom says is true, might trace back to him. And I'm just so grateful that I had badass women in my family that were like, fuck this.
for sure.
Fuck this. So I don't know if it's true. I'd have to actually go and dig in, but
That's
That would be
interesting,
interesting to follow and find out, because I do know, like, it would be interesting to find out what the relationship was, because I do know that Joseph Smith had people sealed, which is like the Mormon word for married for eternity. You're sealed to somebody, that means you're married for eternity. But he had people sealed to him as slaves.
oh,
I know, it's really horrible.
like sex slaves, all the above, regular.
I don't know.
Because he's the one that's all about.
Oh, yeah,
polygamy,
he had like
right? And
30-something
effing
wives.
Everybody, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I don't know
crazy.
what would have happened with them. But yeah, like sealed to them and the family as a slave for eternity. So it'd be
What?
interesting to know if
Shit.
that was the relationship.
I did not even know that. Did you?
No, but that makes sense for Jemima now. lineage.
Wow.
Holy shit, now I have like goosebumps. I'm gonna go on Ancestry later tonight. Noted.
That's crazy. So how would you say the church like manipulated you?
Well, one thing I would say is that you do not have your own authority. Everything is through the prophet who speaks for God, and it doesn't really matter what you think and believe. It's what God says. And God is the prophet. The prophet speaks for God. And so I remember one thing when I was still a member that really sat heavy on my heart and I had a hard time with was the church's stance on LGBTQ issues. And, growing up, I didn't really question it. And then I met somebody who was gay and Mormon, and it clearly was not something that they chose, which at that time they were still teaching that it was a choice. They've now changed their narrative where it's not a choice, but you still should choose not to indulge your same-sex attraction. I'm using finger quotes because that's a load of crap.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But anyway, I met this person and it just didn't.
Are they safe? Are they okay? So I have so many questions about this poor person.
We're not really like close anymore. We're just like distantly connected through social media still. But they ended up getting married in a heterosexual relationship.
No. So I have another side note. My ex-father-in-law he's 70 something now, and he's pretty gay, let's just say it that way. I mean, I hate to put labels on it, but he's been hiding his whole life, as in living as if he's straight. Meanwhile, everyone's like out walking around eggshells because he's telling this big lie.
That's really sad.
And it really impacted his life and my ex-husband's life really negatively. But just hiding is such a way to, I don't know.
It's just
not a way to live is my point.
Right. It's just so sad to think that you're not allowed to just be your authentic self. Right. That you have to pretend to be who you are.
Yeah. I mean, that's just such a sad existence. I just know like one of my friends was gay, and before he came out, he was like having panic attacks all the time.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Like to hide that big of a secret or of your identity. I can't imagine.
Yeah. I can't. Like that would just be so mentally exhausting and such turmoil. But so I met this person and it completely changed my view and like opened up my heart and understanding to people who were gay, but yet the church said that it was wrong and that it's not okay. And so I just had to, like, to maintain my faith, I just had to There's a phrase that they use in the Mormon Church. Just put it on the shelf. Like, you just don't think
interesting.
about it. You just set it on the shelf up here, and God will take care of it.
Wow.
And so
If only it were that easy.
Right?
Yeah, my shelf would be full.
Shit.
There's lots and lots of heavy shelves. In fact, a lot of times in the post-Mormon space, you'll hear people referring to, my shelf broke, or it was what broke my shelf.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
So it's like teaching you not to question things.
Right. There's a lot of thought-stopping methods that are taught. Like, if you think a thought that's inappropriate or impure or anything like that, just sing a hymn or sing one of the little children's songs. But thought-stopping tactics are not uncommon. Like, we probably use them, you know, if there's something that is a little questionable, you might say, oh, you only live once.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To not really think out the consequences.
YOLO.
Yeah.
YOLO. It's all right, YOLO. So, you know, it's not just high demand organizations that use that.
Oh,
So,
my gosh. That's wild.
and definitely there was a lot of rules as far as like how you should live your life. We had our special underwear, which, you know,
I'm sure it feels good not to wear those anymore.
oh, it's so freeing. I remember shortly after we left, one of the first times I was wearing a tank top, and I felt the breeze on my shoulders. And it literally just brought tears to my eyes to think, like, how many years did I miss just the breeze on my shoulders, and the sunshine, which was just beautiful. And in that moment, it was almost like this hug of reassurance, like, you're going to be okay.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, but it's also really funny because now I can appreciate something like wearing shorts that come up my thigh instead of down to my knee.
Yep.
Like, I can feel really empowered just wearing shorts,
Oh
which
my
That's
God.
awesome, though.
normal people might just take for granted, like just wearing shorts.
Are we called anything by Mormon Church? Like, I know Jewish folks call anyone who's not Jewish Gentiles. Like,
so that is also used within
Oh,
Mormonism.
it is? Okay.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot today.
Gentiles or non-members. That's another thing. It's very us versus them mentality. Like, the world is not safe. The world is dangerous. And so that creates a lot of more close-knitness. Close-knitness. I made that word up.
That's for us.
Within the community, where you just draw yourself into each other because the outside world is dangerous.
Wow. That's so wrong in so many levels, but also just like scary. So take us back to when you were growing up. Just let's go back there. Like, so you were raised obviously in the religion and the family, so you didn't know any better. Take us to where little Terina, because it was here in Arizona, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Take us back there, if you don't mind.
No, that's
Revisiting
fine.
that.
So there's actually a show, if anybody's interested in Mormonism, that I feel portrayed my childhood flavor of Mormonism really well. It's called Under the Banner of Heaven.
Oh, never heard of it.
It was really well done, and it kind of artistically portrayed a lot of what my childhood was like. So if anybody wants to just watch something, it's a true crime show. So
Okay.
Oh,
that's up our alley.
it's pretty interesting. But it was pretty rigid. Like, your dad is the leader of the home and the authority, and you don't question what dad says, because dad has the priesthood, which is the authority to act in God's name. And you were striving for perfection. That's the goal in Mormonism. You're striving for perfection. And so that's the standard of expectation. And so we went to church every Sunday for 3 hours, every Sunday. Plus we had, like, as a teenager, in high school, you go to, well, not just in high school, once you turn 12, the youth go to activity once a week.
Okay.
That's about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then
that's like more preaching, I'm guessing.
It's more activities. There's always like a spiritual message that's incorporated, but it is an opportunity just to kind of get together. And I don't know, the girls, we learned things about homemaking.
Of course. Better make the bed right.
How to be a good
Make me a
Bitch. We have a running joke about an 1800 story we covered. It. Bitch, make me a sandwich. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, and then once you're in high school, there's seminary, which is an hour every morning before school. So there's a lot of time commitment. Plus,
that's a lot of. Sorry, I got like a lemon seed in my mouth. That's a lot of time.
And that's just like the basic standard things. Then you have callings, which is basically like your service opportunities, but you don't volunteer for that. Like you're extended a calling that you're
voluntold.
Yes.
That's what I'm picking up.
Yes. And some of them are very, very time consuming, and some of them are less time consuming, but all of them require more time. Plus, every day you're supposed to read your scriptures for like 15 minutes. You're supposed to be praying always. So there's a lot of...
It's a full-time job.
Oh my God.
That must be freeing, just having your time back.
It is amazing to just have your time back. It's so nice. Shortly after we left, we decided we'd just go for hikes on Sunday mornings. That would be our church.
Oh, that's awesome.
And one time we were hiking and my daughter goes, "Isn't it so great that we're not Mormon anymore? Because otherwise we wouldn't be able to be here and enjoy this beautiful view and the time together."
Oh,
so you're doing a great job.
That melted your heart.
Yeah, I mean, how proud are you of that? I mean,
it was definitely an affirming moment because there's a lot of fear instilled about your children. And if you leave, your kids are not going to be okay. You're not going to be able to parent them. You're not going to protect them from the world. Those kind of things. And so it was just a nice moment of we're gonna be okay.
So how do your kids feel about leaving? Obviously happy, but But were they resistant at all at first, or?
So my oldest two children are on the autism spectrum, and kids with autism can be pretty rigid in their routines and different things. And so my oldest, I think he was still 8 at the time, but he had been baptized. And we did everything that we were supposed to. We were very committed and very faithful. We attended church every Sunday, and we attended all the activities, and we participated in leadership positions. And we did the things like we
checked the boxes.
We read the scriptures. We said the prayers. We did our family home evening and all of the things. And so it was a big adjustment, and it was tricky navigating how to tell him why we left that was appropriate for an 8-year-old, but in a way that he would understand. So I just kind of told him, we just found some things out about Joseph Smith that let us know that he wasn't really a prophet. He was actually not a very good guy, and he kind of did some things that were really bad. And that was okay for him, but then there was still some adjustments. But they were young enough that it doesn't seem to have affected them too terribly much, but there's still moments where I'll see it come out. Like, when you're Mormon, you don't drink alcohol, you don't drink coffee, you don't drink tea. And so
I'm addicted to tea.
I'm addicted to coffee.
So if we'll have alcohol sometimes, I can see that there's still some residual there where he's like, I don't think this is okay. Even though like we almost exclusively drink on the weekends. In social gatherings. Like, we're not alcoholics.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's bad to have a glass of wine every night. Like, that's totally can be normal and appropriate, but we don't even do that.
Yeah.
So it's not like
I registered it as
right.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Sums up.
Yes. So, but they're doing really good, and it's been really beautiful to watch them kind of ask questions and explore things around religion and spirituality. We have some neighbors that are really Christian, a couple of my kids' friends, and so they'll ask questions about what their friends believe, and it's really nice to not have to have all the answers, and it's really nice to be able to accept their friends for who they are, versus when you're Mormon, you have the right way and the only way, and they're wrong for believing what they do. And so I'm glad that I'm not teaching my kids that kind of elitism.
Yeah, I could see that. Probably freeing.
So
what caused you to leave the church, though? Like, what was the moment? Was there a moment, or was there like years of build up, like that you're questioning it?
So like I said, with like the LGBTQ issue, there were a couple of things on my shelf. Like, I kind of considered myself like a Mormon feminist.
Yeah, we dig it.
And so there was some questions regarding like the patriarchy and women being treated less than. But again, like, I just accepted them, put that question on the shelf, and it wasn't really weighing heavy for me. They were there. But I was trying to gain a greater understanding of the foundation of the church and of Joseph Smith. And I read a book that was produced by the church, and it had a lot of information that I had never heard before. And I was like, wait. And I said to my husband after I finished the book, I was like, so I just finished reading this book and it wasn't exactly faith promoting. And I shared with him some of the things that were in it that were troubling to me. And I was like, but I'm sure there's answers. I just have to find the answers that will make everything make sense. Because the things didn't make sense.
Okay. And was your husband receptive to it? Oh, amazing. Because oftentimes, like, with the men being told they're the head, they could just easily dismiss you.
Right. And it is easier for a man to be Mormon because it is a very patriarchal organization. And so it's easier for them. Not that they don't have
their own
a hard time, and there's definitely ways in which it's very oppressive to men as well. But so some of those things that I had never heard. So the story I grew up with was Joseph Smith received gold plates that had been hidden in the ground from the Nephites and the Lamanites, which are literally the Native Americans that live here in America. And so it was a record of them, and that is what the Book of Mormon is. And he translated those gold plates. And then in the book, it said that, well, the plates might not have actually been used, but it was a stone that he used, and he stuck his head in a hat looking at the stone, and that's how he translated the Book of Mormon. I was like,
what?
What? That's weird.
That's a weird transition.
I only know of this because of the play.
Oh, yeah, the Book of Mormon, the musical.
Yeah, that's the only reason I know about this.
I heard that was fantastic. One day I'll see it.
You haven't seen it? It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Have you seen it?
So I've watched, like, pirated. I've watched it on YouTube.
Maybe that's what I'll do.
I need to go. I really want to see it because I love the theater, but I haven't seen the whole thing yet. I really want to. Not live yet, anyways. So there was the stone in the hat. There was information about polygamy was what was most concerning to me. And I knew polygamy existed and was in the history of the church. But the way in which it happened, I was not aware of. And that's where I was like, I didn't know Joseph Smith had a 14-year-old wife. Like, that doesn't feel okay.
14-year-old wife? Oh, that's disgusting. How old was he? Do you know?
Mid-30s.
Oh, okay, that's gross.
Yeah. I didn't know that he married girls that were his foster daughters. I didn't know that he married women that were already married. What? I didn't know any of these things.
God, that's so disturbing on so many levels.
Yes. And so I faithfully went searching for answers. And the church tells you not to look at anti-Mormon stuff, which anti-Mormon, in their view, is just anything that's not produced by the church. And so I was trying to be faithful. So I stuck to information produced by the church, but even that information was enough for me to realize that Joseph Smith was not a prophet and
good person,
or a good person for that matter. And so if Joseph Smith is not a prophet, then the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
So, and we went from 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks. Went from fully believing, active, doing everything, to 2 weeks later, sitting in the bishop's office, just bawling. It's not true. We need to be released from our callings and we're leaving. So
how'd they handle it?
I have goosebumps.
So in a matter of 2 weeks, our entire worldview just was gone.
Wow. What an incredible amount of time to have such a huge transformation. Wow. I'm so blown away and moved, and inspired. Because when we were talking, we were really talking about the courage to leave. How did you get there in just 2 weeks?
Well, I think for me, the biggest thing was the sexually predatory behavior of Joseph Smith.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And that was just 100% unacceptable. Like, being a survivor of sexual assault and having survived child abuse and learning a lot about abusers and their tactics and different things, I saw a lot of that playing out in the story I was reading about Joseph Smith and the foundations of our church. And there's a lot of things that I probably could have employed my cognitive dissonance and put on my shelf, but sexual exploitation of women was definitely not one of them.
Yeah.
Preach.
So how did the bishop react when you told him you were leaving?
I'm not sure he'd really encountered a lot of the information that we brought to him because, like I said, it's not stuff that you're taught. It's not something I had not heard any of this in other places in all of my years of classes in the church, and his reaction led me to believe that maybe he wasn't aware of some of those things as well. So he literally
was blind, didn't even know. He
didn't even know what to say.
Wow.
And he really is a great man, very, very kind. You could see, he just felt so bad for us, I was falling apart.
Yeah.
But he didn't know what to say. He really didn't. All he could do was bear his testimony of the truthfulness of the church.
Wow. That's okay. I'm going to take it a little heavier. So feel free to be like, nope, we're not going there. But if you don't mind me asking, did the abuse happen within the church or by members of the church?
So my dad has narcissistic personality disorder and bipolar disorder.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of abuse that happened in our home. And then really most of my life, the vast majority of the people that I associated with were within the church. Okay. And so, I mean, yes.
There you go.
The person I was sexually assaulted by was another member of the church, but it was not a person of authority over me.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Because in our Jehovah's Witness episode, this whole, again, you and I had met and started talking about your experiences. The story I had covered was one of, massive abuse by the elders. And they're being sued right now. I'm sure you're following it to some degree, but it's really scary because these grown ass men, it's just literally child abuse, as you were saying.
Right.
It's within the church or not, this is immoral at best, but obviously illegal. It's
there is definitely a very harmful practice that's still going on within the Mormon Church, and it's worthiness interviews, and they start you're interviewed before you're baptized, so you're 7 years old because you get baptized when you're 8.
Okay.
And one of the questions is regarding sexual purity and making sure that you're clean and not
age 7.
And there's so many stories.
So inappropriate.
There's so many stories of kids that literally did not have any idea what masturbation was until the bishop interviewed them to ask them about masturbation.
What? And that is so
then
inappropriate.
Proceeded to tell them what it was to make sure that they're not doing that.
So they're gonna go do it. Anyway, I mean, come on now.
But that's so shameful.
But it is disgusting.
It is. Yeah. And then when you're a teenager, once you turn 12 and start the youth program, I can't remember if it's once a year or twice a year, you meet with the bishop for a worthiness interview. But then that's asked too. And they definitely ask about masturbation. Do you masturbate? And so it's really inappropriate and very, very uncomfortable to be sitting alone in an office with an old man asking you about those things.
I'm sure it's in a shameful way too.
Right. And the whole repentance process that people have to go through for sexual sins is highly inappropriate. There's bishops who ask, well, was it over your clothes or under your clothes? Did you orgasm from this? Just different things that are highly inappropriate and, from my view, in no way necessary for, even if you believe
any survivor
in a need for repentance, that should not be necessary.
Wow.
Yeah, and I feel like that, for a young age, if I had a kid, I'd be outraged if some rando was asking them that stuff. I just can't imagine.
Yeah, and a lot of parents didn't even know that bishops were asking those kind of things.
Yeah.
Or talking about those things explicitly with their teenagers or young kids. There has been a man who started an organization and has collected stories and is actively, he was a bishop.
Wow.
And then went on to find out about this happening with other bishops and has really campaigned to try and change this. Mm-hmm. There has been a small change where parents are now allowed to go in the interviews with their children if they would like to, but
they're probably shamed into or shunned into not doing it.
Right. It's not like they're encouraging parents to come in. It's just kind of well,
hey, we did this thing.
Yeah.
We can wash our hands now.
Right. And as far as sexual abuse within the church, the Boy Scouts of America have tons, and the Mormon Church made up at least 50% of the Boy Scouts.
I didn't realize
know
that.
Yes.
I didn't know they had a connection at all.
Me neither.
Yes, and very uncoincidentally, right before all of that came out, the church pulled out of the Boy Scout program.
Wow.
Yeah.
PR much? What?
It was definitely an orchestrated move, for sure.
Yeah.
And the church is not interested in protecting victims. They're interested in protecting themselves. The bishops have a hotline that they can call if they have members come in that have been abused or victimized. And that hotline goes to the church's attorneys.
Wow.
I'm so disgusted.
Yeah.
What is it with church, like religion and...
Yeah, I was raised Catholic loosely. I mean, because my mom was forced to be it her whole life from preschool all the way through to a Jesuit university for college. And so when she raised me and my sister with getting our sacraments, so technically I'm sinning because I'm still married in the eyes of God in the church. But anyway, she had talked about a lot of the things that we now know that came out through the Catholic Church, similar with, just abuses of power. And it's just like, same thing with the Catholic Church, obviously, they're only interested in protecting the Pope and themselves and their wealth and power. And it's like, I guess talk to us more about that part of being enraptured by these type of tactics and these people.
So being in that, so you definitely just don't question. Or if you do question, you just put it on a shelf. And one of the leaders is very anti-LGBTQ. And I remember you have a conference twice a year. And whenever he would give a talk that was like that, like my soul just cried inside. Like this is not okay. I don't agree with this.
Yeah.
But you just can't question that. And within the whole realm of striving for perfection, like there's a lot of pressure.
That's problematic in general, right? Like as we know now in mental health, perfection is, I learned that it's not a good thing.
No.
Through my therapy. And I was like, holy shit. So,
yes.
And you said that was one of the tenets of Mormonism.
Right. We're striving for perfection.
That's so unhealthy in so many ways.
It really is. Thank you, Brene Brown, for teaching me all about how harmful that is.
I need to read some more of her books.
It's pretty awesome.
I was reading one of her books, and my husband was like, "Why are you reading that? You don't like talking about feelings, Amy." I was like, "Probably I need to."
That's probably why you need to.
So I was going to ask you, are you still religious today? Like, do you believe in a God, or how? I guess what's your views now?
So I am not religious.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like religion is our human way of trying to organize spirituality and to control spirituality. Mm-hmm. And as we've discussed, that just leaves a lot of room for abuse of power, and a lot of people inserting things that they think are God. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe in organized religion anymore, but I do feel that I'm spiritual. Mm-hmm. But I don't have a firm definition of what that is.
Okay.
And I don't feel like I need to. I feel like it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that my beliefs can ebb and flow as I grow and I learn, especially coming from such a rigid, structured belief of, I could have given you all the answers for life, right? Like I had them all. I knew where I came from. I knew why I was here. I knew where I'm going after this life. Like I had all the answers since the time I was a toddler. I could have told you all those things. And now I don't. And that was definitely scary for a moment. But when I embraced the unknown as a beautiful possibility versus this scary thing, it became very empowering to embrace that I don't have to have all the answers, and that's okay. And, so for example, like reincarnation kind of sounds cool. And I kind of think that
it would be cool.
That might be
just
nice.
Aired the episode last week.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and say I believe in reincarnation.
Right.
Yeah.
No. I feel like you could probably most closely describe me as like an agnostic.
Okay.
There's probably something out there, but I don't know what that is.
Sure.
And I'm not ready to like.
You're okay with not knowing.
I'm totally okay without knowing. And when it comes to parenting, it's beautiful that I don't have to tell my kids what to believe. I can ask them when they have questions about God, like, well, what do you think? And I can tell them, well, some people think this, and some people think this, and some people think this, and leave it at that, and let them decide what they think and believe.
Have you seen any of them kind of veer towards beliefs or anything?
I feel like my oldest is the most likely to be an atheist.
Okay.
And my youngest, he's the one that has the most friends that are Christian and like very open about that. And so it's interesting to hear him talk about God in different ways. And I just let him, like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's good to explore it. Yeah.
He can explore and think about God. And I feel like my job as a parent is no longer teaching my children what they need to believe. My job now is allowing my children the space to discover what they're going to believe.
Amazing.
Very cool. So did you have to go through therapy to get to this point, or was it just like a self-healing journey with you and your husband? Like, how did you get to this point?
Well, I'd definitely been through lots of therapy prior to leaving. And so I had a lot of tools that I was able to employ to help me through this. And I think therapy is great. I think it should almost be like your annual visit with your doctor. Like, go in and out. So I've got a therapist I'm working with right now as we're working through some things. But that's been within like the last year. So like the most of it, we just kind of navigated on our own, and then with our support groups. And then I really loved different podcasts for helping learning different things. So yeah.
Well, thanks for teaching our listeners something about deprogramming. So what year was it again when you decided? So you had that 2 weeks.
Yeah, so it was like the very beginning of 2019.
Oh my God, I didn't realize it was that recent.
Yeah.
Wow. And look at you today. Like, it's incredible how much work you've done, to Amy's question. Like, wow. Thank you for inspiring me as I work through my stuff.
No, it is amazing. Would you take back, like, so I know you can't, but would you take back the experience of being Mormon, or do you think it's shaped who you are?
So I'm a live life without regrets kind of a person, and everything that I've experienced has helped shape and mold me into the person that I am today, and I kind of love myself. So
hell yeah!
So no,
I need this in my life. I need more Terina in my life.
Yeah.
Not to say that I don't have things that I wish that I could have experienced.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it does any good to be bitter or hang on to those things. So I don't know. I don't think I would take it back. And I think that just like Judaism is like, it can be cultural, it can be a heritage thing. I feel like Mormonism is my heritage.
Okay.
Whether I like it or not, whether I believe in it anymore or not, like that's my roots and that's where I came from. And so even though I no longer align with that religion, and I do feel it can be harmful, like I still respect people who choose to remain Mormon.
Sure.
I have family who are still in the church, and I respect them and their path. And that's also been part of my journey, is just learning to respect people for wherever they are.
Sure.
Okay. So how would you say your relationship with your family is? If they're still believers, have they accepted that you're, like, are they open to the fact that you left?
So I'm the oldest of 7 children, and of the 7 of us, me and then my sister, just younger than me, we were the only ones to remain active in the church past probably high school.
Okay.
And so that one sister is the only one that's still active in the church, and then both of my parents who are divorced are still active in the church.
Okay, not to be ignorant, but they can be divorced in the Mormon Church?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Divorce,
Sorry.
No, we're good. Divorce is
as a divorcee, I must know.
It's definitely discouraged. And then, as I'd mentioned before, there's the sealing, which is like being married for eternity. So generally speaking, you do not, you only get divorced for here on earth. And unless a woman is getting re-sealed to a man, she stays sealed even to her ex-husband. But she can't get sealed to another man without getting a temple divorce, which you actually have to get approved from like the prophet of the church. It's a really big deal. But the man can get married to as many women as he wants.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course he
Yeah,
can.
it's such a double standard.
Yes. So even if, for example, like my father-in-law has passed away, my mother-in-law cannot get remarried for eternity to another man.
Wow.
And even if you'd only been married for like 1 year at like 18 years old and tragedy happened.
What?
And your husband passed away and you then spend the next 50 years with another man, you can't be
That's insane.
sealed to that man for eternity.
So they make you feel you're already grieving because you lost someone, and then they make you feel ashamed if you try to find another life partner. That's just messed up on another level.
It's a complicated aspect of Mormonism that I just threw out there for everybody. How about that one?
Yeah.
Sorry. Well,
So back to divorce.
I apologize. I went on a tangent here, but I was very curious.
Yes, it's discouraged, and it really can be problematic because you're married for time and all eternity, and you're also taught, in your youth, that as long as you're both members of the church and have the same goals meaning eternal life,
Okay,
and being fully active members of the church, that you can be successfully married. That's all it takes.
Oh, I wish.
So there's lots of people that are in very unhappy marriages that stay because it's a covenant that you've made between you two and God to remain married.
Wow.
Not so much different than Catholicism.
Yeah.
Shit. I've seen that.
Yeah.
So does the state actually recognize that you're married to multiple people, or is it just
Oh, great question.
No, because legally you're divorced.
Yeah,
it's just this spiritual.
Okay, that's
Mormon
what I thought.
thing.
Okay,
Got it.
so I was like, I didn't think the state recognized more than one marriage, but I wasn't sure.
No, polygamy is still illegal.
Okay.
So
It's kind of interesting that it's illegal, don't you think so? In a certain way?
Well, that's brings up a whole other can of worms. Eccentric question.
Oh, yeah.
But are humans made to have multiple partners or not? But
Well, I mean, I think it's your own prerogative. If you're happy having multiple partners, I don't really think it works most of the time, but who am I to say you can't be married to multiple people?
Oh, but who are they to say what to do with our women's reproductive
Yeah.
rights as well? What do you know? They locked that shit down.
I mean, marriage is kind of a...
But yeah, they're coming for marriage next, which I didn't know that interracial was part of that too. And I guess I would have been in jail, but
Isn't it messed up?
it's so fucked up.
it is so
I
wrong.
can't think
so
about
many
our
levels.
current
I mean-
events. Yesterday I was driving and I was listening to this global warming and I was like, news event, and I was like, I gotta turn on true crime to relax.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
Because I have the true crime addiction, and she gives me shit about it. But so if you're turning that on, that means it's bad.
It was
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
My TikTok feed gives me emotional whiplash. 1 minute I'm laughing at hilarious
100%.
fails, and the next minute it's the world is ending.
You got to teach us how to use TikTok, or me. I'm the holdout on our Bewitched banter feed. I'm like, I'm not doing that, but we need to. We can get on that shit.
It's fun and
my
a time
God.
suck.
That's what
is.
I hear.
Don't
From this
join
one.
it. Yeah, it's addictive.
So with that, you obviously come through so beautifully and are teaching your children real life lessons that I think any parent should. How did you come to what you do now and helping others get through? And I guess, let's start back up a little bit. Tell us more about deprogramming, because you did say you leaving was deprogramming was such a big part of that process. Can you tell us more about that?
Right. So I feel like one of the biggest components to deprogramming is putting yourself as your own authority again. Because in any organization that is high control, high demand, you have to give your authority away to the leader. And almost always there's elements of putting away your own intuition to trust and follow them. And so putting yourself as your own authority, I think, is one of the first and most important things to start to learn to trust yourself, which can be really hard. Yeah. I remember leaving and feeling like such a freaking idiot. How did I go 36 years and not question? Or how did I have questions and not listen to them? And, but then you just have to look at what you were given.
Yeah.
And you did the best with what you have and acknowledge where you are right now. And like, okay,
Oh, man,
we're
I'm
starting
so
from here.
emotional. Sorry, because deprogramming could be applied to so many things, right? In my case, divorce, relationship, this thing that I was enmeshed in that I still to this day I feel stupid. And she's like, bitch, he should feel stupid. But I do. Like you just touched me so emotionally on that level of like, I blame myself. No, it's his ass.
Right.
So taking control, like you said, of yourself.
And even if you did make mistakes, like I'll call it a mistake that my soul told me that the church's teachings on LGBTQ individuals was wrong. And hopefully I never harmed anybody because I tried to be very mindful, but maybe just my association with the church was harmful to other people or relationships that I may have encountered. So maybe that's a mistake, but I did the best that I could in that moment with what I have. And there's the phrase, you know better, you do better.
Yep.
Go from there. So putting yourself as your own authority and acknowledging thought-stopping techniques that you might use. So for us in the church, we were taught, like sing a hymn or, just some different, like say a prayer. Sure. Prayer can be a thought-stopping technique. Prayer can be beautiful. Prayer can connect you to your spirituality, God, Absolutely. Divine, whatever. Prayer can also be used as a thought-stopping technique.
Yeah, I could see
that.
And
so if you're using prayer to stop thinking thoughts, stop praying when you're thinking these thoughts that make you uncomfortable and explore those a little bit.
Yeah, let yourself question. Right. Yeah.
And questioning is the next big one, like just asking questions and being open to different questions and exposing yourself to different views and different philosophies. Shortly after we left, I sat down with a bunch of different people to ask, like, so what do you believe? What's your spirituality like? And I heard different people's beliefs and I just took it in. And I had conversations about things that were uncomfortable or maybe a little taboo. And I sat down with a friend and I was like, tell me what your thoughts are about pornography. Because my whole life I'd been taught that pornography was evil and wrong and anybody who looks at it is a sex addict, like, talk to me about pornography. What do you think about that? And I heard different people's perspectives on it. And there was people who think it's horrible and there's people who think that, like, it can be empowering.
Absolutely. When done in the right context, anything can be, right? Or either extreme, harmful or helpful, right? So
yes. So just listen to different books or podcasts or whatever with different world views. Like just expose yourself to different things and be open to hearing it. That doesn't mean that you have to be open to, okay, well, now I'm going to think that pornography is fantastic.
Yeah.
Or now I'm going to go be a Catholic because my friend is really loyal and dedicated to Catholicism. It just means that you're open to hearing it and open to changing your mind or not. Just be open. Another thing that's important for deprogramming is separating from the organization and from the leaders. And I do know some people that remain, they call it physically in, mentally out.
Interesting. Okay.
A lot of times this happens in like mixed faith relationships where one partner refuses to look at information, digs in, and becomes more dedicated. Okay. And so the person who's questioning or doubting puts that relationship above other things. And so they go through the physical motions of going to church, but they're mentally out.
Okay.
Sure. So ideally, you're physically distancing yourself from an organization that you need to deprogram for. But sometimes if you're strong enough, like you can just mentally create that barrier and distance yourself and then also be with other people who are distancing from the organization. Sure. Also, another big one for deprogramming is discrediting the leader.
Wow. And that's got to be scary. You have to be really brave to do that in any context, but especially with an organization as large as Mormonism.
So for me, it was finding out the truth about Joseph Smith and being willing to look at that objectively.
Yep.
And not, because there are people who learn things about him and they just say, well, I just know what I have felt and I know that he's a prophet and this doesn't matter. So you have to be open to seeing it. And another way of doing that is asking yourself, if I wasn't born into this, or like if I was learning this information now, brand new, what would I think?
Yeah. Wow.
So, for example, there's a book called The Cult of Trump. I really liked it. And it really identified a lot of the ways that some people are in a cult-like mentality following Donald Trump. Disclaimer, I do not believe anybody who voted for Donald Trump is in a cult.
Right.
I don't think we have many Trump fans.
Oh, yeah, no.
Probably not. We're not our target audience.
I will say this, because my parents don't listen. My dad voted for him. And now he regrets it and like says all this backward bullshit. And we're like, whatever, you made your decision and that was your right to, right? That was your right to do that, Dad. I didn't berate you like my sister did for that really shitty choice. But now it's just wild. The point being...
Was your dad Republican?
Used to be, before it got co-opted.
Yeah, I don't feel like the Republican Party is very different these days.
Yeah, it's...
Yes. So if you were speaking with somebody who was kind of within a culty mentality of following Donald Trump, you could present them with information and say, if you were just receiving this now, what would you think? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times leaders of cults will use a discrediting tactic of don't believe information from outside of the organization. Mm-hmm. So it's don't believe anything not from Fox News. Yeah. Don't believe anything not from the Mormon website. Mm-hmm. You know, like stick to our approved sources. Mm-hmm. So if you bring information that's from other places, their initial instinct is going to be to not trust that because they've been told not to. Or you have been told not to. Right. But if you look at that and try and look at it objectively, I remember thinking when I was a kid, the whole story of Joseph Smith and having like an angel come to him and bring him gold plates. I remember thinking, if I hadn't grown up with this and been born into this, this would be really hard to believe.
Yeah, you'd be like, what am I?
And then I employed my tactics of, and I'm so grateful that I was. Aren't I so lucky to have been born and have the truth and be able to just know that this is true?
That's how you were, brainwashed, essentially.
Yes.
Wow.
So, like, asking yourself or another person, like, if you were just receiving this information now, what would you think of it? Because I guarantee if I were to sit down with some of my close family members who still believe, and I'm like, Joseph Smith married a 14-year-old, they'd be like, yeah, but he was told to by God.
Mm-hmm. There's that justification.
Yeah, like an excuse.
Versus if I were to say, like, okay, but now consider that if you had no background of the church at all.
Or if they're granddaughter.
Or, right? If you... What would you think of someone else who married a 14-year-old? What would you say about them?
Right. So apply all logical thinking to this person, this organization, regardless of what your background has been, because it deserves critical logical thinking.
Yeah.
So,
which is lost in this country to 99% of us.
I feel like it's around the globe.
And it's just scary. It's scary times because
it is. I can't think about it too much.
Yeah, nobody can think logically and like a journalist, frankly, right? Because that's how we were trained. That's how we were taught to think and look at things, even though I'm a very emotional person. But yeah, it just really is scary. And that's the whole premise of Bewitched Banter, honestly, is because we don't agree on shit. But guess what? We're still here. We're best friends. And like, we can... She calls my shit out all the time. And guess what? Like, I have come around a little bit more to skepticism on many things. I will refuse to give up believing in ghosts, but...
That's up for debate.
That's something I refuse, but, and I think I've softened her a little, if you will. But
I know, tomorrow we're supposed to talk about ghosts. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Because I don't believe in it.
No, but it is so important to be able to be open to hearing other people's thoughts, beliefs, and opinions. And being open to listening and having those dialogues does not mean that you're going to sit down and change your mind.
Right, yeah.
It means you're open to hearing and open to the possibility that you might change your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, and just being respectful. I feel like...
Exactly.
Yeah.
That shit is
and
lost.
It's a great skill that can really help us. It's really dangerous to be in our own echo chamber and hear nothing but what we think, because
I feel like I'm guilty of that sometimes. Like the last election, how many people voted for Trump? I was like, I must be in a bubble because I do not know many people who are going to vote for Trump. I was like, I need to get myself out there, but do I want to?
No. We don't want to know.
I feel like But I was just like, oh my God, how are people voting for him? It's just like, I can't even understand. I used to be able to understand the other side, but now I'm like, I can't.
Well, to Terina's point earlier when we were talking about the book, he's a masterful manipulator. People want to call him dumb. Sure, he presents himself as a goof and a goon, but that's part of the whole strategic facade, and it works. I mean, look what he's done. It's really scary. So, and it's like, and then couple that with the mind control tactics.
And you have a great leader.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have all these people who refuse to see the actual truth.
Yeah.
It's good they're airing the trial, though. Because they said it's not to reach the extreme people. It's to reach the people on the fence.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, because the
extreme people already lost. They're done.
Yeah, they're not going to change their mind. But the people who are questioning it, it's going to push them to the other side.
Right.
I hope he goes to jail. That's what I'm hoping.
Wouldn't that be great?
There's actual consequences for your behavior.
I don't think he will, but there's hoping. At least he's getting exposed. To your point. Which
is valuable as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. My gosh. So tell us how you help others with this incredible journey of yours that you've been through, and what led you to it.
Well, what led me to it really was this experience of being in support groups for people who'd left Mormonism, and in my own way being a resource for people. I was sharing information with people, and I was sharing suggestions and tools with people, and so many people were really grateful for what I had or coming to me for help, and it just sparked in me. Like, I've always had this desire to help others, and felt that I had, my life experiences are meant for more than just me. The things that I've learned are meant for more than just me. And so I pursued life coaching and public speaking, and it's been so beautiful to help people, not even just within the context of religion. But I think as we've spoken, we've seen a lot of people kind of shifting in some of their worldviews and becoming aware of more things, whether that's you used to align more with one political party, but you're becoming more aware of social issues. And so then maybe you're leaning more another direction, or we're getting a lot more awareness around narcissism and unhealthy and abusive relationships. And people are
left one.
They're leaving.
I see that.
Yes. And people are leaving. And there's a lot of people that are deconstructing the patriarchy, and a lot of times when you leave these belief systems, you come out and you don't really know what's next. You don't know who you are. You don't know what steps to take. And so I have a program that's all about helping you to become your authentic self, because you may have been in this situation where you were living in a way to live up to your parents' expectations, society's expectations, your religion's expectations. And you based a lot of your life decisions around what other people told you your life should look like.
Yeah, it's really easy to do.
And so I'm all about empowering people to discover who you are. Like, what are your core values? What lights you up? What are your strengths and your talents? And then empower people to be able to set boundaries, because that is key. And then empowering them to be able to live authentically without shame or guilt of what other people are going to say or think about your decisions.
Wow, amazing. Your journey's been incredible.
Where can people find you? And do you have a book, or are you working on one? I swear
I am working on like a memoir, but I did contribute a chapter to a book written by people who'd left high demand religion. It's Fear to Freedom, Stories of Triumph After Leaving High Control Religion. And its focus is not to tear apart organizations that were left. The focus is on the possibility of joy and happiness after leaving, because it can be very scary to leave. Because you're told that your life is not going to be as good, And so it's just the stories of success after leaving.
Amazing. And website, where can people find you?
So my website is terinamoldonado.com, and then I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok if you want to follow me.
I will follow you
on
TikTok.
Absolutely will.
So is it your own company, or do you work for a company for life coaching?
Nope, it's just me.
Get it, girl. Awesome. Independent women in here.
Entrepreneurship at its finest.
Okay. I'll check you out on TikTok.
We're working on it. Sorry, I had another question. I had just watched watch the Stay Sweet and Obey.
Ooh.
Are you able to watch those type of docus yet?
What religion is
It was
that?
Mormon.
Okay, I started and I was like, I can't do this today.
It's exactly.
It is really heavy.
It's heavy,
Yeah.
deep, and
Yeah.
and moved me. And
They're dating
anyway,
young girls, right?
Really
it's
young.
disgusting.
Yeah, I think I started and I was like, I'm not mentally ready for this.
It was
Yeah.
pretty horrific to watch it. And in your healing journey, are you able to intake those things yet?
So one thing that was actually healing for me was I went on a whole binge of cult documentaries and cult shows.
Lee Remini's is phenomenal.
Lee Remini's is
she
so
is-
good.
I watched that a little bit. It's pretty
I
good.
love her. I mean, I hope she takes those
She's
motherfuckers
amazing.
down, but
Yeah.
it's going to take
Yeah.
a little bit more, I think, because of their fingers, but their tentacles and
That's
everything.
Scientology, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started that. I need
Mhm.
to keep watching it.
Yeah, so it was really healing for me to watch documentaries and to learn more about different organizations and see the ways there was overlap and see the ways that they all work the same, just different flavors, right?
Mhm.
And so it was helpful for me. And so with Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, that one obviously is more recent, but
Mhm.
yeah, watching it was it was hard just because
Bet.
the content, but it also was that's more the Mormon Church that Joseph Smith was building.
The extreme, yeah, right? Because
Yeah.
that was up in northern Arizona.
Yeah, northern
Right.
Arizona, southern Utah is primarily where they are, but they do have some branches other places.
And
in
you
the
grew up in
United
Mesa,
States.
correct? Right?
I
Or
grew up in Prescott.
Prescott. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard there's
Yeah.
more Mormons in Chandler than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, because there's the big church out in Gilbert, right?
Yeah, they're
No, Utah's got more.
really.
Yeah, like
She's like, I know, trust
the
me.
Provo area where BYU is 90% Mormon.
Okay.
Utah in general is about
like fact
yeah,
check.
fact
Yeah.
check you, buddy.
yeah, Utah in general is about 50% LDS. And then they call it the Mormon Belt. Arizona, Utah, Idaho is the Mormon Belt. There's like a high concentration
Idaho.
there.
Even their
Huh.
alcohol laws in Utah
Oh,
are so
yeah.
weird. Like I remember
can we consume?
it only can be 5%. The beer can't be over 5%.
Oh.
And
And
liquor
if you
is-
have a cocktail, they like it's not the full proof. It's like half proof liquor, and then
Right.
you can't order another drink unless you
Ever?
fully finished it. Like if you have like
Oh.
a sip or two
That'd
left.
be good for me back in the day.
Yeah. No, but if you have like a sip or two or left, and you're at dinner, and you're like, "Oh, can I have another one?" Like you have to wait till you finish it, which I think
Yeah.
encourages people to drink more because they're like, "The
Oh,
waiter's
they want to chug
coming."
it, you mean?
Yeah.
The waiter's coming. Let me finish this so I can order something.
And
I'm
you
like, the
can't-
logic's not there.
Oh, see,
Yeah, you can't just buy alcohol at the grocery store either. It's
Yeah.
only at the state-run liquor stores that are like on stricter hours. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's
but-
very.
Weird.
And don't you have like didn't you back in the day you used to have a license to drink in Utah?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, I don't know. I might be wrong, but I was just like, I know they have weird Mormon influence in their laws.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when at least 50% of your population is under one belief system,
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
it's definitely going to manifest in your laws.
Mm-hmm.
Nuts.
Interesting.
Sorry, just one question about clients. Have you had any clients or connections with other stories that really were like, oh my gosh, similar story, or I'm sure many are similar, but anything stand out from another person's journey that was like, oh my gosh, you get it?
So I did work with a woman who was just leaving an abusive relationship. And it was just so powerful to watch her growth over the course
Mhm.
of our working together to go from a victim really to being more empowered to stand in her voice. And she has a son also. And so to see her gain confidence in her ability to advocate for her son and what he needs and just be more confident in who she was
Oh, yeah.
just touches my heart and makes me so thankful that I followed that inner voice that
Yeah.
says you can help some people out.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
It was just beautiful, beautiful partnership working with her. And I love, I don't feel like I tell people what to do. That's not my job as a life coach. My job is to be with you and help you figure out what's right for you in your life.
Mhm.
And it was really beautiful to watch her figure out some things and just grow into herself.
Oh, I'm gonna cry again. Jeez. Well, if y'all are looking for life coaching, Terina is incredible. Again, TerinaMoldanado.com.
Yes.
Any workshops coming up or anything?
Nothing on the books quite yet, but stay tuned. I've got some that I'm so close to being ready to share.
Oh my God. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your
thank you
story.
so much. It was incredible, honestly.
Being vulnerable, and you got me ready to be badass, independent woman again.
Yay!
Lizzo.
About damn time.
About damn time. Well, I'll tell you this off air, but the story that I think I'm over my ex. Oh shit, I'm so excited. About damn time is right. With that, peace, Bewitches.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. Check us out on Instagram or bewitchbanter.com. Suggestions for the show? Email us at bewitchbanter@gmail.com. Credits, music Phantom Fun by Jonathan Boyle from premiumbeat.com. Podcasts edited and produced by Krista Hins and Amy Holt. As always, if you enjoyed, please rate, review, and subscribe.